extended an invitation to us, and we will be traveling to Azerbaijan. We will be leaving for Baku shortly for an official visit. And as you know, the glorious Azerbaijani military armed forces, right after the attacks initiated by Armenia, was able to liberate Karabakh and its environs by carrying out a successful operation in the region. Now, this epic struggle lasted for 44 days, and as a result, the Azerbaijani armed forces were able to liberate Nagorno Karabakh, and thanks to the leadership of Mr. Aliyev and thanks to the heroism of Azerbaijani troops, this victory was made possible. Throughout this time, the people of Azerbaijan exhibited solidarity with their service people and did not shy away from any sacrifice. Armenians were targeting civilians and carried out heinous attacks, but despite those, Azerbaijan continued its righteous struggle, and even at times of war, the Azerbaijani troops did what becomes being a Muslim and being a Turk, and I'd like to thank them for that. And our martyrs laid their lives to liberate their homeland, and I also wish a speedy recovery to the veterans. This struggle lasted for 44 days, and thankfully, the star and the crescent are above the skies in Karabakh, and our nation and our Azerbaijani brothers and sisters have joined forces to rejoice the end of this 30-year-long injustice. As Turkey, of course, since day number one, we stood by our Azerbaijani brothers and sisters, and we supported their righteous struggle by utilizing all our means. We share a history, a culture, faith, and also a language, and whatever this requires, we did our best to fulfill, and we supported the Azerbaijani troops in their struggle for the liberation of their homeland. And as such, in 44, on the Boraltan Bridge, the single-party regime had committed a mistake, and we were able to overturn that. And we will continue to support Azerbaijan in the upcoming period. Tomorrow in Baku, there will be celebrations of victory, and we will be participating in these celebrations and join in the righteous joy of the Azerbaijani people. And we will also have bilateral talks to discuss the steps that need to be taken in the upcoming period. We will have the opportunity to exchange views with my counterparts in Azerbaijan. Distinguished members of the press, I last traveled to Baku on the 5th of February 2020. That was our last visit to Baku, and since then, we have made progress in terms of our bilateral relations, and we are going to discuss this progress tomorrow as well. And throughout this time, we were able to talk to one another on the telephone. We were always in touch. Regarding defense industry to security to counterterrorism, from energy to economy and trade, there are so many chapters that we have relations with Azerbaijan. And this victory of Azerbaijan will further contribute to our bilateral relations and our cooperation, and it has laid the foundation for that. Occupied territories will now be developed by Azerbaijan, and in terms of superstructure and infrastructure, we will support our Azerbaijani brothers and sisters. Taking this opportunity, we will also discuss our fight against COVID-19. We will review what has been done and what needs to be done in the future. Of course, we will try and find ways as to how we can improve our relations in these areas, and we will also discuss the future outlook as well. This official visit to Azerbaijan will further strengthen our motto, two states, one people. Hopefully, this will be an auspicious visit for Turkey and for Azerbaijan. I greet you all with these sentiments, and thank you very much for your participation. Please go ahead. Sir, I have two questions. The first question has to do with Republican People's Party, sexual harassment and rape allegations. The party has not made any announcements thus far, and the chairperson, Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu, has made an announcement about standing as a candidate for presidency in the future if he is to become a candidate. What would you like to say about that? And the second question is, in the EU summit, if there is a decision to levy sanctions on Turkey, what would Turkey do? And do you have a message to EU leaders before the summit? Dear friends, regarding Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu's stance, what sort of a step he will take, obviously this is not our concern. Obviously this is his own concern. And the announcements that he have made and the responses that he gave are really diluted in nature, if you notice. And if he's going to become a candidate, if really he's thinking about that, that would be good for his party and for our country as well. As for the EU, regarding the EU, the European Union, on the 10th and 11th of December, they are going to have a summit, and if there's a decision to levy sanctions on Turkey, then that decision would not concern us that much, because officially since 1963 we have been waiting at the gates of the EU, and they have been levying sanctions on us continuously. Never ever has the EU acted in a sincere fashion since 1963. Never ever have they fulfilled their promises. But since that day, we have always exercised patience, and we still continue to exercise patience. And right now, the steps that they could take, the decisions that they could make, we will have to wait and see what these are. But leaders who are sincere, who are genuine about their steps, they do stand tall, and they oppose such sanctions against Turkey. Onur Doğan, TRT World. Sir, the Greek PM, Mitsotakis, said that, actually said that Turkey-Greece tensions have now become Turkey-EU tensions. The relations between Turkey and Greece, especially the developments in Eastern Mediterranean, have now been seen as a provocation by Turkey, by EU member states, and that's a success, said the Greek PM. Well, regarding this topic, dear friends, distinguished members of the press, Mr. Mitsotakis, all these announcements by Mr. Mitsotakis show that they are the ones who are fleeing the table of negotiations. They've never joined us around the same table. NATO Secretary General, Mr. Stoltenberg, invited them to the table, but they were they again fled the talks, and prior to that they again shied away from negotiating with us. And another step, for instance, Albania, Turkey, and Greece, between these three countries, we wanted to take a step, and again, unfortunately, they did not come to the table of negotiations. So they have always been fleeing the table, and their politics are based on lies. This is sadly the state of affairs that they're in, but we have always stood tall throughout the entire process, and from this point onwards we will stick to our own path, and we will continue to stand tall. And regarding Eastern Mediterranean, we will always defend our rights, and we will do our best to protect our rights. And in addition to that, regarding the rights of Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, we will continue to uphold their rights. We're never ever going to take a step back regarding this topic. But if Greece really acts as a neighbor, if they act in a frank manner, then we would get around the same table with them, obviously. Serkan Kaya, NTV. After the elections in the US, the Biden administration will come into force next month. In the past, you had close ties with President Trump, but we did nevertheless experience big crises between Turkey and the US. What sort of a process do you envisage with the new administration regarding CAATSA sanctions and so on? Dear friends, well, um, President-elect Biden is no stranger to me. During Obama administration, we had good relations with President-elect Biden. We worked together, and he visited me at my home. And when I was ill, he visited me to wish me a speedy recovery. At the time, Mr. Ömer Çelik, our spokesperson, was also present at that visit. Unfortunately, around the world, politics has taken an ugly turn. Uh, you look at people, and people talk about sanctions all the time, and between Turkey and the United States of America, what sort of a process is there? I mean, are we not allies within NATO? Are we not two important countries within NATO? Today, after the US, we are one of the top five NATO countries as Turkey, and they always underscore this themselves. But right now, unfortunately, we see that uh, regarding our purchasing of weapons, they have been taking some steps, and they have been making some announcements, some statements, and we don't really think that these are appropriate steps or statements. And in the north of Iraq and to the east of Euphrates, we do not condone their attitude. And it would be premature right now to make any proclamations. We should wait for President-elect Biden to start working. We will sit down with them and talk. Obviously, in the past, in Turkey and in the States, we would come together and discuss matters, and we will continue to do that after the inauguration of President-elect Biden. As you know, in international relations and in politics, there is no room for conflict. In diplomacy, especially, these matters are resolved through reconciliation and through negotiations, and you find the middle ground. Some people from your country may whisper certain things into the ears of these politicians, but these people are novices. But we have always had good relations with the US, and I believe that that will be the case in the future as well. Sabah Daily, Abdurrahman Şimşek is my name. In your fight against FETÖ, and I personally am a journalist who have been writing news stories about this for quite some time, and now people are talking about a reform in the judiciary, and members of the FETÖ organization are talking about ownership rights, or people are talking about freeing of Selahattin Demirtas. So they have been using this discourse. What would you say about that? Well, of course, I should not step in judicial affairs and intervene in judicial affairs, but everyone should know that regarding Selahattin Demirtas, who is a terrorist, if I'm not going to defend his so-called rights, and he doesn't have any such rights, and I do believe that our judiciary regarding Selahattin Demirtas, who is a terrorist, will not give that option. And the perpetrator of Kobani is none other than himself. The perpetrator in Diyarbakir is none other than himself. And the perpetrator of Yasin Beru is none other than himself. Are we supposed to overlook these matters? Is our judiciary supposed to overlook these matters? Whatever needs to be done, we will do. We will not shy away from this struggle, and we are not going to pave the way for such a terrorist. Regarding ownership rights, the same thing holds true. These people do not have any ownership rights. These people have a debt to this nation. They have a very large debt. All these people were killed because of these FETÖ terrorists. How about their rights to ownership? And likewise, regarding FETÖ, all these people were killed, and right now, the person who has fled to the UK, this person who is in the UK, how are they going to pay the price for this, for the atrocities they committed? Why did they run away? Why don't they come back to Turkey and stay in their homeland? And we are engaged in this battle, and we will continue to be engaged in this battle in the future. Thank you. Channel 7, Ümit Gürbüz. Sir, I have two questions. One has to do with the racist incident that took place in the Başakşehir game yesterday. You spoke out against racism in the past. So yesterday's incident was quite problematic. What would you like to say about that incident? That's my question number one. And the second question has to do with minimum wage committee and their incoming decision. Representatives of workers made announcements, and they said that their expectation is about 3,000 Turkish lira, and the opposition also supports this, and the opposition also says that minimum wage should not be subject to taxation. What would you like to say about this? Yes, dear friends, this incident that took place in France during the Başakşehir Saint-Germain game, at the 13th or 14th minute, this unfortunate incident took place. And this incident really is quite striking. We have seen a rise in racism in France of late, and this is like a new manifestation of that racist wave, that we have seen rising in France, and we cannot condone this at all. Last night, I made an announcement on my Twitter account regarding this incident, and our spokesperson and likewise the presidential spokesperson, we all made our announcements and raised our voices against this incident, and we will continue this stance with the same level of determination. Last night, Başakşehir really exhibited a principled stance, and they walked away from the field, and then this Romanian referee was taken away, but nevertheless they resisted. They said this is not enough, and right afterwards, 4 of the referees are to be changed, said the UEFA, and that's how they accepted the rerun of the game. And Dembaba and all the players, they exhibited a very principled stance, and in light of this principled stance, I think this evening at 20:45 there will be a rerun of the game. And of course, France, unfortunately, has intensified its racist discourse and racist practices, and we hope and pray that this evening's game will be played in peace and harmony, and as such we will continue on this path. And the second question was about the minimum wage. Yes, of course, talks are underway, and throughout these talks, the Ministry of Family and Social Affairs, they are actually chairing this process. They're in talks with representatives of workers, and after these initial talks, we will also assess the situation, and then we will take the necessary steps together. We hope that we will make an auspicious decision, and that's our goal. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good day. Thank you.